Hey Photo World, welcome back to another episode here on TakeAndTalkPics.com. This is another episode from the former podcast. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join the email list. Let's get to that 1,000 subscriber marker so that way I can add a new video every single week. Enjoy. Photo World. TakeAndTalkPics.com. I'm Rob Kruger. This is episode 39, featuring photographer Levi Sim.
I get there and I open up my case and there's no memory card in my camera.
Today's featured guest is Levi Sim. Levi, are you ready to rock today?
I am ready to rock and roll.
Awesome. Love hearing that on the show and getting people pumped and ready to share their story. Before we do that, I'm going to introduce you just a little bit to the photo world out there. Levi is a photographer based out of Lake Oswego, Oregon. With his signature Steve Jobs tribute portraits, Levi is a down-to-earth photographer driven by his passion for the medium. As a man who wears many hats, both figuratively and literally speaking, Levi has one other passion other than photography, and that is his family. His family is the foundation to why his approach with his images is so strong and successful. Levi, welcome to Take and Talk Pics.
Thanks, Rob. That was not. I've never been called down to earth before, so that's a first.
That's the way you struck me. I was watching a couple little videos of interviews you've done on YouTube, and it just seems so real and just walking people through it. Like, this is just a day in the life of Levi. And I was like, that's the way to do it. So
right on.
And it's okay to be a little eccentric. I mean, I think that's good. So
well, good, because I've got some of that.
That feels normal to me. That's down to earth. So
okay, good.
Awesome. Well, we're all about sharing your story here to Photo World and, walking through the ups and downs, the do's and don'ts as being a photographer, especially running a business. But before we get into any of that, can you introduce yourself further to Photo World?
Oh yeah, so I've been a photographer full time for 4.5 years, and I bought my first DSLR in 2009. And before that, I mean, I loved photography in high school, but somebody convinced me you couldn't make a living at it, and I didn't take any pictures for 12 years after that. Then I bought a camera and went crazy with it, and I've always been a creative person making things, and I get grouchy if I'm not making things. And so photography is pretty nice because I can make a lot of things really quickly. Like my last crazy passion hobby business was furniture making. And there's nothing more frustrating than pulling the tools out of the garage, making one cut on the saw, then cleaning everything up and putting it all back in the garage in time to go to bed before work the next day. So, clicking the button 40 times a second is pretty satisfying.
Not a bad gig. And something about those early days, people try to talk you out of doing business of photography, and we have enough trouble talking ourselves into doing it or continuing it.
That's right.
We don't need that.
It's just a profession. You can make of it what you will.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you want to do, then it's something that you absolutely can do. Yeah. I mean, and there's a million different things to do in it too. I mean, there's wedding photography, there's portrait photography, I do medical photography. I photograph live surgeries. I photograph chocolates. I photograph mountains. I mean, there's so much to do.
Yeah, a lot of options out there, and hopefully Photo World can resonate with this. Do you have something like a mantra or a quote that you use to live your life by or your business by?
Yeah, what's good for you is good for me. There's more than enough of everything out there. And if I can help something go well for you, then it's good. And good is just good. It doesn't matter if it comes back to me. Like when I help somebody, I don't expect them to somewhere down the road return the favor to me. I don't expect anything in direct correlation to what I've done for good. But it comes around. Something else goes well for me when I, just doing good is its own thing. It doesn't have to be tit for tat.
Right. I mean, you get out of things what you put into them, and if it's good you're putting in, you're going to get good out.
That's right.
So Levi, what sparked your interest in photography enough to pursue it as a career?
More than interest to pursue it as a career, it was more like kind of I couldn't not. I'm sitting there one day at the plant where I worked as an engineer, and I'm talking to a guy on the
production line, and we were talking for 10 or 15 minutes, and I have no idea what he said, because the whole time I was looking at his eyeballs and thinking about how just a little pop of flash from over here would really just fill this out, but I love this light that's coming from overhead here, and he's looking good. Maybe if he just turned his face a little bit this way, and I think, probably about 150, 200 millimeters would probably be the right choice of lens. And so, when I'm that distracted, it wasn't honest to keep working for somebody else.
That makes sense. And man, I've come across people who have similar stories, but yours feels more closely related to what I deal with, where I can't not see it or try to see it. I'm always moving around people, and I'm fixing their background because I don't like what's coming out of their head.
Right. Like if I'm facing the window in a conversation, I work myself around until they're facing the window and they look great in the light.
It's not just the sun in your eyes; it's getting the perfect picture.
Exactly.
Awesome. So it's not an interest in photography; it's you can't help it. I love that. That was a great way to kind of kick it off here and get into the story. And when we can't help it, it's great we have that passion, that drive, and we love what we do. But we do have to realize it's a business, and there are good times and there are definitely bad. Can you bring us to a time where something didn't work out well? It was a learning moment. Maybe you call it a failure moment, and you're better for it now. But man, at the time, that was just rough.
Oh, there's been lots of those. Let me think about that. As one thing too is that I'm passionate about making pictures for people, and I'm passionate about people. But it's okay to be passionate about the business of photography too. You could be a good photographer and be more passionate about something else. It's okay to do that. But if it's ever miserable, then please quit. don't subject your subjects to the tedium of work life. It ruins it for the rest of us. So when it gets to be tedious for you, it's time to take a break or change it up or switch a lens, and make sure that the people you're photographing have a great experience too. And so something, a hard time, a failure, I've had those. One of the first times I was photographing, I headed over to this gal's house to photograph her newborn baby, and it was fun, beautiful little kid. And I get there and I open up my case, and there's no memory card in my camera.
Oh, no.
But I told you I used to work at this factory as an engineer, and we used these little SD cards. Well, I mean, they were normal sized SD cards, but they were like 128K size cards, just really small storage space on these cards. But I had a bag of like 20 of them in my case. And so I was shooting and changing the card like every 3 pictures. because I left my full-size card at home someplace. And so she goes, so I noticed you're changing your memory card a lot. What's that all about? I said, I don't know. So I think I said, all your eggs in one basket, that kind of thing. So I guess when I fail, I try to move on with it and make it right. Had I not had those cards, I would have said, I'm sorry, I'll be back in an hour if that's all right. I forgot one of my tools, and I want to make this right for you. And then, I don't know if I can help make up the time difference by providing a little extra product or something to enrich the experience. But other times people have come back and said they don't like any pictures from the shoot, and I'm flabbergasted,
right?
Because I loved them, because I really enjoyed them, and I say, well, I'd be happy to reshoot it for you or recommend another photographer, and then I try to get to the bottom of it, because rarely is it because there were no good pictures. I've never had no good pictures from the shoot, and that because you say, well, I'd be happy to refund your money, and then I'll just take down that album for you, and you won't have to see those ever again. And then they say, well, I mean, I'd still like to have some of those.
Right.
It's like, well, if they're no good, they're no good. But I mean, I guess the main thing is that when I mess up, I've just got to make it right somehow. And I'm not always the best at that. I'm not a great business person, but I am pretty proud of what I create for people, and I want them to have a good experience. And I will happily don't tell my clients, but I'll happily eat the cost on something if it makes them happy. I mean, I don't want unhappy people out there saying how poorly they enjoyed my experience. I just don't want them to have a bad experience. Again, not related to what it has to do with my business down the road, but I just don't want them to have a bad experience, period.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm rambling.
No, it's okay. There's a couple really good takeaways there. I mean, you keep bringing up the creation of images because, we make pictures. We don't take pictures. If we're doing it right, if we're doing it right, that's the case because anybody can take a picture. But then you keep bringing up the experience. And I feel like for myself personally, I hope Photo World can relate to this. That's a lot of what my business will thrive on is if I'm got a new wedding or something, it's the email correspondence, the price list, that can come from anybody at any time. But if I can get in front of them and speak to them, now they can start to see that there might be a personality there. There might be a person behind the camera that might show up for whatever X amount of dollars. So the experience is huge. And it sounds like you really, really drive your business based on that idea. And Photo World, take a look and we'll have the links on the show notes page. But there's a reason behind that being so effective, and you can see it. The proof is in the pudding, So, I mean, there's some great stuff. So
one of the first conference I ever attended, I didn't even own my camera yet, but I attended a workshop with David Zeiser. And I don't know if you've ever learned from him, but he is one of the most successful photographers ever, ecumenically and photographically. He's a very fine photographer and a fabulous businessman, and I think he has master's degrees in electronics or something. But the biggest thing I learned from him is that being the best photographer in town has nothing to do with photography.
Right.
And it's all about whether people like working with you and whether they trust you to be nice and courteous and helpful. I mean, they're spending the most important day of their life with you for weddings.
Right.
It's a big deal to have somebody that they like.
Yeah, I mean, even landscape photographers need to understand that their business is not landscape photography, it's people. Because where does the picture have to go? They got to get published, they got to get sold. I mean, you're only going to be in touch with people. So we're a service industry, no matter what genre you're under.
Absolutely. And if you're not good at being the people, I mean, when I go to Peter Lick's gallery in Vegas, I don't meet Peter Lick, but he's got really good people who tell a good story and make a good experience for me, even though I'm not interacting with Mr. Lick himself.
Right.
And so if you're not a person who can be trusted to interact well with people, you can find somebody who is.
Right. You can always outsource anything you need. So that's the way to make a business successful is understanding your, good points and your bad and then adjusting for it. So,
right.
So with your photography, and I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you say it. With your photography, is there one piece that you would call your most important practice, whether it's with the client interacting or with your editing or just the whole process from start to finish? Is there one thing that stands out always there?
Well, yes. The least important thing I do is make a picture. It's all about people, and it's about trying to find some story that I can relate to, that they can relate to with me, and have a discussion as real people, and make a picture in the process. It's about smiling and shaking hands, saying, "Gosh, you look great," and what's the name of your kids? And as we talk about these things, I'm also filing away some information I can use to pull out a genuine expression while we're making pictures. I say, look down at my toes, and when you look up here, say Isaac, if that's your kid's name. Look up here and say Isaac, and they smile or they don't. If they don't smile, then we switch kids. But it's about working with people when you're making people pictures, and it's about working with people when I teach. It's when I teach, I don't expect to make great pictures myself. I expect to help somebody else learn how to make great pictures, and not necessarily that they're going to make a great picture right then, but that they're hopefully going to have some foundation and some ideas brewing that will help them make better pictures another time as well. Does that answer the question?
That totally answers the question. I mean, I'm an instructor at a community college out here in the Chicagoland area, and I just that's all I'm thinking is like, yeah, I mean, as long as they can take away at the end and go with it somewhere and do something with it, then I did my job, not just for the paycheck, but for what I enjoy doing and, getting that information out there and helping out and being a part of it, because that's a cool experience.
Yeah, it's
So,
fun. And I used to teach at the community college as well. And, you get all kinds. I don't know what
all
you
kinds. Oh yeah.
My class was more of a pass fail thing.
Mm.
And I mean, I had guys who were 80 years old and guys who were 18 years old and gals who wanted to start a business and gals who wanted to photograph their grandkids and the whole range of everything in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so fun. I loved it. Just helping people make a better picture of anything. It's really enjoyable. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of listeners out there, maybe hopefully listening to the podcast to see where they can improve and take it to the next level. But Levi, can you give a piece of advice to Photo World out there, something you think would lead to growth and success in their photography business, regardless of their current level?
As a business or as a photographer?
Sure. Either way.
Well, as a photographer, I mean, there's 4 things that'll make you a better photographer. You gotta take a lot of pictures. You gotta look at a lot of pictures. You gotta be in a lot of pictures, and you gotta read your manual. These 4 things will make you a better photographer. And then if I add one more, well, maybe I'll add that later. Especially the being in a lot of pictures. I really think if you're a portraitist, you need to be in photographs. You need to empathize.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can't expect this lady to stand in front of your camera and she's going to say, every one of them says, I don't take a good picture. I don't like being in pictures. Mm-hmm. I haven't been in a picture since 8th grade. I'm usually the one on the other side of all these things.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just let people say that to you and not have any kind of empathy with it. You can't say, so when I do it, I say, I know what you mean. When I'm in pictures, all I see is forehead. That's why I wear a hat, because I don't want to see my enormous 5 head sitting there in front of in this picture. I can totally empathize. What is it about you that you don't like? And just empathizing. I mean, I'm not going to be able to change that you have huge bushy eyebrows. That's just the fact.
Right.
But maybe empathizing with you will at least make it a little more comfortable to be in front of the camera for a minute. So those 4 things: take a lot of pictures, look at a lot of pictures, be in a lot of pictures, and read your manual, and that'll help you be a better photographer. In your business, you gotta remember that you don't sell pictures; you sell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's no competition for you. If you are having trouble because your neighbor is selling 8x10s for $10 less than you are, then you're missing something. You don't understand your business. If you're selling 8x10s, then you're selling a commodity. And like Skip Cohen and Scott Bourne teach us all the time. And read Going Pro, the book by Scott Bourne and Skip Cohen. It'll help you get going. But they teach us that if I want to buy a can of Coke and 7-Eleven has it for 75 cents and Walmart has it for 50 cents, I'm going to buy it at Walmart because it's exactly the same product. Mm-hmm. And if you're selling 8x10s, if you're selling a piece of paper with dimensions and you cost $30 more than somebody else, they're going to go someplace else. But when people buy you as a service, like we've already talked about, they pay for you as a service because you're in a market of one. There is nobody else that delivers you, and that's what's important. Everybody can make a good picture. Everybody can use the rule of thirds and make a decent photograph mm-hmm. that's worth purchasing. And so I've got to stand myself out by smiling bigger and being friendlier or more courteous or whatever it is that turns somebody onto me. And so part of that too is knowing who your client is. You ought to be able to spot your client driving down the road or shopping or as they walk down the street, or you bump into them at church. You ought to know this person is my potential client and this person just isn't my potential client.
Right.
And this person is who I want to serve, and what's the difference between what I'm doing now and what would allow me to serve that person. Is it because I'm offering Walmart service to Nordstrom customers, or am I trying to offer Nordstrom service to Walmart customers, and I'm at Walmart prices, and I'm not, something doesn't meet up with what I'm trying to provide and who I'm trying to provide it to.
So it goes back to the whole if you build it, they will come kind of thing. Like if you can niche down to who your market is, who your target audience is, they do exist. You wouldn't have thought of that person if you hadn't have met somebody along the way, if you hadn't have found that same characteristic, So
Right.
photo world, when you're starting to think about it, don't just go, I want to be an everything photographer because then I'll get all the business, because you're probably going to have a rough time balancing any one of those really nicely. You just be the you photographer and make your business and get your clients. I mean, heck, how many thousands, tens of thousands of weddings are there in major cities across the country, millions throughout the year. And there's wedding photographers struggling to find a client. It's like, just look a little bit in a different direction because you want all of them instead of yours. So go
Right.
look for yours. Same thing with portraits and senior portraits and, getting published for doing nature photography. Find your publisher, find your publication to be in instead of, only doing macro and going and trying to get into landscape magazines, like.
Exactly. Well, and here's an interesting thing too. I mean, as a photographer, does it do me any good to be published in a photography magazine? Are my clients reading a photography magazine? Are they reading photography blogs?
Not so much.
Yeah, right. I mean, you need to find the place that puts you in front of your clients. And for anybody and for everybody, I highly recommend utilizing your Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is full of people who do business with the people you want to do business with. That's something else I learned from David Zeisser. Do business with people who do business with people you want to do business with. And they have a good experience of you. They recommend you. I don't hang out at bridal shops, but there's a bridal shop in my Chamber of Commerce, and I know her. And if she, if I'm a wedding photographer, I can make not only a good impression with my photographs, but she sees me every week as somebody who is friendly and nice to work with, and she can recommend me because she knows me, because she sees me every week at the Chamber of Commerce events and things.
Right.
And if your Chamber of Commerce isn't awesome, then go in and make it awesome.
Right. And there's other things too. There's BNI groups and,
Right.
Toastmaster groups, there's so many different community driven groups where it is business to business getting together, and they're all different. You got to find what works for you, but it's a good point. Just realizing there might be more than just sitting at home and waiting for the phone call or sitting at home and surfing the net, looking for whatever you can, there are other ways to market you, face to face handshakes, they go a long way. So during your career so far, have you had an aha moment, a time when a light bulb just went off and from that moment on things started to change for you?
Oh, I hope you guys have all experienced this, where you look at the back of the camera and you're like, dang, I'm good. Like, man, that's a good picture. And things suddenly came together for you. And then it's awesome. And then you go out and do your next shoot and you're like, oh crap, where'd that guy go? Where's the guy who made the awesome picture last time? So there's been for me several times when I've got my lights arranged and I'm trying to do something, and then maybe I reset and start over, and then it clicks and it pops and it suddenly just looks the way I was expecting it to and the way I wanted it to. And it often happens with a pose. In fact, this happens to me frequently with a pose. I get somebody into a spot and I photograph that, and then I change them up, and I'm like, gosh, this is really close. Now lean in this way, tilt this way a bit, look down at my toes, look up here and say Nebraska, and let's try it again. And then one of these spots with a small minute adjustment, suddenly that person is looking their best, and then I help them emote their best, and now we've got a good photograph that I can be pretty proud of. It's both composed well, it's lit well, and it's got a good expression, and interesting and engaged expression. And so that happens for me quite frequently. And aha, man, when I started using a tripod, when I really started trying to use a tripod in every shoot, my pictures got immediately better. The only piece of gear you can buy that will make your photographs better is a tripod. I don't care what you shoot, and I don't care how difficult it is to follow a little kid running around the park with a tripod. If you start using a tripod in every condition and every shoot, your pictures will be better. You get to compose it better, and most importantly, you get out from behind the camera. You get out from behind this black box of terror that's in front of your face,
Right.
and you allow people to interact with a real person. I mean, you're sitting there looking. I'm looking right at Rob right now. I've got a camera in my hand, and I'm looking through the viewfinder, and I squinch up my left eye like Popeye, and I'm looking at you, and I'm like, okay, good. Now scoot over here a little bit, and I'm pointing something, and I say, no, turn around to the right, and you can barely see my mouth,
Right.
and all you see is this angry eyebrow because I'm squinting my eye, and so it looks pretty angry. But when I can get out from behind this black box and relate to a real person, it makes a significant difference in everything about the pictures. I can shoot at slower shutter speeds. People can hold still for a half a second. That's no problem. But me holding a camera still for a half a second is practically impossible.
Right.
And so it allows me to shoot in a wider range of lighting circumstances and do cool effects and relate to people is really the biggest thing. So
Yeah, I mean, we all have our phones and doing selfies with the friends and family or whatever. We're used to being in front of cameras, but the second those type of cameras, a big DSLR or even a intimidating mirrorless system or something, it goes up in front of you, it's, you look a little awkward behind the camera, but then it's this huge barrier for the person being photographed. And it's like, can I speak to you for a second? Like,
right.
I feel weird and I'm talking to glass. Like, what the heck?
Exactly.
So now I even feel more uncomfortable.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, I liked how you started the whole aha moment of just every once in a while we get that time when we look in the back of the camera feeling like, I think I just got that. And you look and you're like, all right, what did I just do? Because I got to replicate that another time. I got to know how to do it.
Right.
And that's the difference. Instead of thinking you got a nice happy accident, study what you're doing as you're doing it. Study what you're doing after you do it. And it kind of goes back to your 4 points of making, taking a lot of pictures, looking at a lot of pictures, even if they're your own, keep going back and studying yourself. So, I mean, I think this has got some good carryover here and there. And when we're going with the business, I want to keep this one pretty business driven. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice. Yeah. It's close the computer, put down the camera and go out and shake hands and meet people, go knock on the door. And the way Skip Cohen and Scott Bourne say it, it's Scott's phrase. He says, own your zip code. You need to own your own zip code. Everybody where you live needs to know that you are their neighborhood photographer. I don't care what business of photography you're in. If you're shooting travel stuff or landscape stuff or weddings or babies or seniors or flowers, everyone in your zip code needs to know that you are the photographer. And all you have to do is print a postcard on Vistaprint and go knock on doors and say, hi, I'm your neighborhood photographer. And what do you do? And again, I'm not promoting myself. I'm getting to know everybody. I just need to know everybody. They don't need to buy from me. They don't need to purchase my headshot. And you do not, when you do this, do not say, how can I help you make pictures? You ought to come in for a headshot. That's soliciting. Nobody likes solicitors.
No,
that's not what we're doing for people. So, but by knowing people, then I can help them. Then I can make a connection for them somewhere. I can say, oh, you're a realtor. You're a lawyer who specializes in immigration. Well, I just met this guy who needs an immigration lawyer. Let me connect you guys. And making connections for other people is the best way to help people want to do business with you as well, I think.
And the cool thing about that photo world is you can apply that to every aspect of your life, always. It doesn't have to be for your photography business. It doesn't have to be for your own little firm of whatever you're doing. Like, it can be anything. Networking is key, or others like to call it community because they feel like networking is too strict and tough on business. I don't know. But I like both answers because they feel the same to me, that getting out there, getting to know people and leaving it at that instead of, what can I do for you? Let me find your solution to a question you haven't asked. Like, that's just the worst way to approach things. Mm-hmm. Network, get out there. It's the oldest trick in the book, and it's the most effective one today. So
absolutely. And you like, people think, oh, well, I'll just send them a text. I don't want a text. And the last thing I want is an email from somebody. I hate email. I have stacks and literally thousands of emails I haven't read in my box, and it's terrible. But if I go out and meet people, I can make a real connection and see somebody and smile at them and shake a hand and make an impression. Whereas, sending a text to somebody is the worst thing you could do. Call them up. Call them up. And answer your phone, people. Answer your phone.
Nobody wants to talk. Everybody's busy texting. So
Yes, it's the least good way to do business.
True. I mean, I know there's a lot of them out there. One thing I dislike is when people message me on Facebook to talk about whatever job they need. I'm like, can we hang on a second? Facebook? No, I can't deal with it here.
Yeah, give me.
I still do.
I say, I say, great. I'd love to help you out. Why don't you give me a call, and we can talk about it.
Just get them on the right thing that works for you.
Yeah. If we have to text more than 2 or 3 sentences, what?
Why aren't we talking?
That's ridiculous. Yeah, and I'm not old, folks. I'm not really old. I mean, I'm only 34.
Not
Give
old.
me a break. I'm just old-fashioned, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that. I can say that for sure. I'm the same way. I'm only 28, and I feel like, man, what generation did I grow up in? I don't know. Like, I can't. I mean, for instance, Photo World. Levi's wearing a bow tie. I got a polo on, and we're not even doing the video. So,
that's right. Wear decent clothes to work. There was this time I got out of the car, or I met this family, and as they were getting out of the car, it was like Thursday night, and they're coming for family pictures, and this 9-year-old kid is wearing his Sunday best on a Thursday night, and he gets out and he looks up at me and goes, "Well, why isn't he dressed up?" And I've been wearing a collar ever since.
Yeah,
so.
A little different, and then it hits you. You're like, oh, even behind the camera, people notice. So.
Right.
Very cool. We're going to wrap it up real soon here, but before we go, I got one last question, and then we'll kind of find our closing remarks here. Do you have one app or internet resource that you think Photo World could benefit from knowing about?
One app or internet resource. I mean, if you're not using Lightroom, then you're not maximizing yourself. Along with that, I use Lightroom Mobile in order to take pictures directly from my Lightroom catalog, and then they show up right on my phone. There's no like putting the picture into Dropbox and then downloading it from Dropbox and then putting it on Instagram. I just go straight from Lightroom to Instagram, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And what else? There's one thing Nicole S. Young shared. And it's been a little while, but I can send you a link too, and it's on photofocus.com. And she shared us just a simple way using a site called If This Then That. And it allows you to go from Instagram to Twitter. And within Instagram, there's a Twitter button. But if you use that button, it just puts a link on Twitter to your photograph. I don't know about you guys, but I don't click on links in Twitter. But if I see a photograph, I look at it. Mm-hmm. And so Nicole shared us this awesome way using If This Then That, so that every time I post on Instagram, my picture shows up on Twitter. And it's sweet. It's really cool. I mean, it's a little thing, but it makes a big difference in actually sharing a photograph.
Just having that connection, because you're right, I don't click links when I see them. It's like, that's too much work to follow that and wonder if I'm going to care about it. Chances are I won't, So if I see a picture, I can make a quick decision whether it's not worth the time. Before we wrap it up here, can you please share with Photo World one parting piece of guidance, and then the best way that we can get in touch with you, whether it's your website or some sort of social media, and then we'll say goodbye.
Oh, parting piece of guidance. You're asking me all these questions like I'm some kind of guru.
You are.
My guidance is go make a picture. And don't even think about resting on your laurels. Yesterday's pictures don't matter. You're only as good as your next picture, because that's the next person you're working for or helping with. I mean, since we're talking business stuff, Skip Cohen quotes somebody else, but I always quote it as Skip, saying, "Beauty is in the eye of the checkbook holder." It only matters what you do for your client today, not what awards you won at WPPI. And so just go out and make pictures, and take yourself seriously, take your craft and your product seriously. But I mean, you're just a person holding a camera, making a picture, and so is everybody else on the planet right now. I mean, you're not Ansel Adams, who stood out by working his butt off, and you're not, I don't know. Just go make a picture.
I love it.
And then you can find me on photofocus.com where I teach and I do podcast interviews there. And otherwise, Instagram gets my recent work most consistently. I'm at Photo Levi on there, Levi, and Twitter same. But come find me at a conference. I go to most of the conferences, and I'd love to make a picture with you or glean some tips from what you've got.
We'll have all the links that Levi was telling us on the show notes page. If for whatever reason you can't find them on your own, we'll have it on the Take and Talk Pics website. Just type in Levi in the search bar. His show notes will pop right up. We'll have that one-stop shop for you, Photo World. But Levi, I cannot thank you enough for your time today and sharing such great value. Photo World thanks you, and happy shooting.
Thanks, Rob.
Photo World, our businesses can't grow unless we grow. Take the time and learn a little bit more about your Photoshop, Lightroom, and general photography skills. Kelby One is a great place to start. They have training courses, and today you can get $10 off your first course. Head to takeandtalkpics.com to the affiliates page, and we have Kelby One featured right there, where you can get your $10 off your first Kelby One course. Photo World, takeandtalkpics.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we really appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you share this with your friends and photo family out there. We'll see you next time. This is Rob Kruger. Happy shooting.